My dearest one, if you're watching this, I have a feeling you've been carrying something heavy. Not in your hands, but in your heart, in your mind, in the quiet spaces between your breaths. It's that gnawing feeling, isn't it? The one that whispers doubt into your ears when you try to sleep, or screams questions at you when you're trying to live. It's the sensation of standing at a crossroads, not just a physical one, but a deeply internal one, where every path forward feels shrouded in mist, and every step backward feels like surrender. You might be here because you're tired of the relentless loop of what ifs and should haves that play on repeat in your mind. You might be here because a relationship, or the lack thereof, has left you feeling hollowed out, confused, or utterly lost. And if that's you, if you feel that ache, that tremor of recognition, then let me tell you something. Straight from my heart to yours, you are not alone in this. Not for a single solitary second. And even more profoundly, you already know the answer. The difficult, uncomfortable, undeniable truth is already residing within you. It's been there, perhaps for months, years even, knocking softly, sometimes violently, against the walls of your denial, your fear, your desperate hope that things might miraculously change without you having to change them. I've seen it countless times, not just in others, but in the mirror in my own journey. That moment when you're faced with a truth so clear, so undeniable, it feels like a physical blow. Maybe it's the realization that the person you've been pouring your love into, the one you've sacrificed so much for, simply isn't capable of meeting you where you are, or isn't willing to. Maybe it's the quiet whisper that you've been shrinking yourself, dimming your own light, to fit into a relationship that was never designed for your brilliance. Or perhaps it's the dawning, painful awareness that your own patterns, the people you choose, the way you react, the fears you cling to are the very things holding you captive. This isn't an accusation, it's an invitation. An invitation to stop running. An invitation to finally breathe into the uncomfortable truth that has been demanding your attention. Because until you acknowledge what you already know, truly acknowledge it, you'll remain stuck in that frustrating cycle of overthinking, of second guessing, of trying to force a square peg into a round hole. Overthinking isn't just a bad habit, it's a sophisticated, insidious form of self-sabotage, a clever trick your mind plays to keep you from facing the very thing that will set you free. It's a delaying tactic, a smoke screen designed to keep you from the necessary, albeit painful, action, the silent language of your soul. Why you already know. How do I know you already know? Because your body, your intuition, your deepest knowing has been screaming it at you. It manifests in that persistent knot in your stomach when their name comes up. It's in the way your energy drains after certain conversations, leaving you feeling depleted instead of energized. It's in the constant cycle of justification you find yourself making for their behavior or for your own inability to leave. It's the quiet dread that settles in on Sunday nights knowing another week of the same emotional landscape stretches ahead. Think of it like this: your soul speaks in whispers, sometimes in shouts, long before your logical mind catches up. It's the inner compass, always pointing you towards your true north, even when your ego or your fear tries to spin you around. Have you ever had a moment where someone said something, or you saw something, and a sudden, sharp clarity pierced through your fog of confusion, a tiny flicker of, oh, that's it. That flicker, that's the truth you already hold fighting its way to the surface. We often mistake overthinking for problem solving. We believe that if we just analyze every angle, replay every conversation, dissect every word, we'll arrive at a different conclusion. But what we're actually doing is desperately trying to find a loophole in the truth, a way to make an unworkable situation work, or to avoid a decision that feels too painful to make. We're not seeking clarity, we're seeking permission to stay comfortable, even if that comfort is a gilded cage. The illusion of control, why we cling to overthinking. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we choose the torment of perpetual analysis over the decisive, albeit difficult, action? It boils down to a fundamental human fear, the fear of the unknown, the fear of loss, and perhaps most profoundly, the fear of regret. We crave control. Overthinking gives us the illusion of control, the sense that if we just think hard enough, we can manipulate outcomes. We believe that by endlessly strategizing, we can somehow prevent pain or ensure a specific desired future. But life, my friend, is chaotic and unpredictable. The only true control we have is over our own responses, our own choices, and our own inner landscape. When we attempt to control external circumstances or other people, we invariably suffer. Consider the story of Marie Curie. When she first began her groundbreaking work on radioactivity, she faced immense skepticism, limited resources, and the very real dangers of working with unknown elements. She didn't overthink the societal norms or the scientific establishment's resistance to a woman in her field. She didn't get caught in endless debates about the possibility of her discoveries. Instead, she acted. She knew deep in her bones the potential of the elements she was studying, and she dedicated herself to the relentless, difficult work of extraction and observation. Her action, born of an inner conviction, not endless rumination, led to world-changing discoveries and 2 Nobel Prizes. We often tell ourselves stories to avoid the truth. They'll change. It's just a phase. I'm being too sensitive. If I just try harder, they'll see my worth. These are the comforting lies we weave to avoid the discomfort of acknowledging what our intuition has already clearly stated. We cling to these narratives because the alternative, facing the truth, feels like stepping off a cliff. But what if that cliff isn't a fall, but a leap into a vast, open sky? The cost of denial, what overthinking steals from you. Let's talk about the cost. Because there is a profound cost to letting overthinking steal your power. It's not benign. It's insidious, eroding your very essence. It steals your joy. When your mind is a constant battlefield of what ifs, there's no space for present moment joy. the laughter of friends, the beauty of a sunset, the simple pleasure of a quiet morning, they all become muffled by the internal monologue. You're constantly rehearsing future pains or replaying past grievances, effectively building a wall between yourself and happiness. It steals your self-worth. The more you overthink a situation, especially one where someone else's actions are causing you pain, the more you subtly start to question your own judgment, your own instincts. Am I overreacting? Am I too demanding? Am I somehow the problem? This constant self-interrogation erodes your confidence, making you doubt your own perceptions and ultimately your inherent value. You start to believe that if you just thought harder, you could fix them or the situation, rather than seeing that your worth isn't contingent on their actions or your ability to solve an unsolvable puzzle. It steals your time and energy. Imagine the mental energy you expend cycling through scenarios, drafting imaginary conversations, and dissecting every glance or word. This is precious life force that could be channeled into creative pursuits, meaningful connections, personal growth, or simply resting and replenishing yourself. Instead, it's trapped in a feedback loop of unproductive rumination. Think of Leonardo da Vinci. He was a prolific thinker, yes, but his genius lay in applying his thoughts, in observing, experimenting, and creating. He didn't just ponder the flight of birds, he drew their anatomies, designed flying machines, and documented his findings. His thinking was always in service of action and creation, not endless. Circular analysis that led nowhere. It steals your authenticity when you're constantly trying to figure out the right thing to say or do to appease someone or to maintain a fragile peace. You lose touch with your authentic self. You start to perform, to strategize your interactions rather than simply being. This creates a deep internal schism, a feeling of not truly being seen or understood because you're not even showing your true self. The trap of if only. Unpacking the lies we tell ourselves, the most potent lie we tell ourselves, the one that fuels this overthinking engine, is the if only narrative. If only they would change, if only I were different, if only I had said this instead of that. This if only is a fantasy, a cruel mirage that keeps us tethered to a painful present, preventing us from moving into a future where our needs are met. Let's be brutally honest for a moment. You cannot change another person. You cannot love someone into becoming who you need them to be if they are fundamentally unwilling or unable to be that person. This isn't a moral failing on their part, nor is it a deficiency on yours. It's simply a misalignment, a painful truth that must be faced. Think of Frida Kahlo. Her life was marked by immense physical and emotional pain, particularly from her tumultuous relationship with Diego Rivera. She didn't fall into an if only trap regarding his infidelities or their complex dynamic. Instead, she channeled her raw pain and her truths into her art, creating a vivid, unvarnished depiction of her inner world. She acknowledged the reality of her situation and, through her art, found a radical form of self-expression and healing. rather than endlessly trying to reshape Diego or their relationship into an ideal that didn't exist. She faced the truth of their dynamic and found her power in expressing her truth, not in overthinking how to change his. This isn't to say we don't try, don't communicate, don't offer second chances. But there comes a point, a crucial inflection point, where trying becomes enabling, where patience becomes self-abandonment, and where hope morphs into a desperate delusion. And that point, my friend, is usually when the overthinking truly takes root, when your mind becomes a hamster wheel of how can I fix this, instead of is this serving me? The spark of recognition, your first step towards freedom. So what do we do with this heavy realization? With the understanding that you already know the truth, even if it feels terrifying. The very first, most crucial step is simply to allow that truth to surface. Stop pushing it down. Stop rationalizing it away. Stop building elaborate mental fortresses to protect yourself from it. Imagine you're holding a delicate, perfectly formed truth in your hands, but your grip is so tight, so afraid that you're crushing it. Loosen your grip. Let it breathe. This doesn't mean you need to act on it immediately. It just means acknowledging its presence. Take a deep breath with me right now. In through your nose, hold it for a moment, and then slowly, deliberately, exhale through your mouth. And as you exhale, silently or aloud, just say, I know. I know this is difficult. I know this hurts. I know what I need to do, even if I'm afraid to do it. I know this isn't serving me. I know who I am. And I know this isn't aligning with my truth. This simple act of acknowledgement is the first crack in the wall of overthinking. It's the first ray of light penetrating the fog, because when you stop fighting the truth, your energy is no longer consumed by resistance. It becomes available for something far more powerful: clarity, courage, and ultimately decisive action. This isn't about blaming yourself for overthinking. It's about understanding that your mind was trying to protect you, trying to find a way to navigate what felt overwhelming. But now it's time to choose a new path, one where your inner wisdom leads the way, not your fear. In our last conversation, we talked about that undeniable truth buried within you, the one you already know but have been hesitant to fully face. We acknowledged the sheer weight of it and how overthinking is often our mind's desperate, exhausting attempt to avoid that truth. Today, we're going to peel back another layer. We're going to step into the actual echo chamber of your mind and examine how this overthinking manifests, particularly in the most vulnerable arena of our lives, dating and relationships. If you've ever found yourself replaying conversations endlessly, dissecting every text message, agonizing over the right time to respond, or creating elaborate mental timelines of what should happen, then you know this territory intimately. It's a landscape littered with hypothetical scenarios, imagined slights, and a relentless quest for certainty in a world that offers very little of it. This isn't just about being thoughtful. It's about being trapped. The anatomy of overthinking in relationships, more than just thinking too much. Overthinking, especially in the context of dating, isn't just thinking a lot. It's a very specific kind of mental activity that has several key characteristics. Repetitive and circular, it rarely leads to new insights. Instead, you find yourself going over the same ground, the same questions, the same anxieties again and again. It's like a broken record, playing the same discordant tune on repeat, hypothetical and future-oriented. A significant portion of overthinking is spent dwelling on what-ifs that haven't happened and may never happen. What if they don't call? What if I scare them away? What if this ends like the last one? This pulls you out of the present moment entirely. Analysis paralysis, the sheer volume of analysis leads to inaction. You get so caught up in planning, predicting, and perfecting your next move that you never actually make one, or you make one filled with hesitation and self-doubt. Rooted in fear, at its core, relational overthinking is almost always fueled by fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of not being good enough, fear of making the wrong choice, fear of repeating past heartbreaks. Let's consider Jane Austen, the brilliant author. Her characters, particularly the women, often found themselves navigating complex social rules and relationship dilemmas. While her heroines were intelligent and observant, they often faced internal struggles, particularly around societal expectations and genuine affection. Imagine Elizabeth Bennet overthinking Mr. Darcy's initial slight. She allowed her pride and initial judgment to spiral, almost missing the true character beneath the facade. It took direct, honest interaction and a willingness to move beyond her initial fixed ideas, to truly see him and build a connection. Overthinking, in her case, could have easily cost her a truly fulfilling relationship. The unseen hand, how past wounds fuel present overthinking. Now, why are you prone to this? Why does your mind default to this exhausting pattern? Because for many of us, overthinking is a coping mechanism born from past hurts and unresolved experiences. Think about it. If you've been betrayed or deeply hurt in the past, your mind learns to be hyper-vigilant. It sees threats everywhere, even when they don't exist. It believes that if you just analyze every detail, you can predict and therefore prevent future pain. It's like an alarm system that's stuck on high alert, even when there's no fire. If you grew up in an environment where love felt conditional or where you constantly had to earn affection, you might internalize the belief that you have to be perfect or perfectly pleasing to be loved. This leads to agonizing over every word, every gesture, trying to curate an ideal version of yourself. If you have a core wound of not being enough, overthinking becomes a desperate attempt to compensate. If I just think about this enough, I can make myself good enough, smart enough, interesting enough to be worthy of love. It's a frantic effort to fill an internal void with external validation. This isn't about blaming your past. It's about understanding its influence. When we understand why we overthink, we can begin to untangle its roots rather than just pruning the branches. It's acknowledging that your overthinking isn't a flaw. It's a deeply ingrained protective strategy that, while once perhaps useful, is now hindering your ability to connect authentically and find true peace. Recognizing your patterns. The different faces of relational overthinking. Let's get specific. Which of these patterns resonate with you? Recognizing them is the first step towards untangling them. The mind reader, Sir, or the crystal ball. Thinker, this is where you constantly try to decipher what the other person is thinking or feeling, often projecting your own fears or insecurities onto them. They said X, but they meant Y. They haven't texted in an hour. They must be losing interest. You become convinced you can predict the future based on minimal evidence, often negative. Example, imagine the historical figure Cleopatra, a master strategist and manipulator. She was constantly trying to read the intentions of Roman generals like Caesar and Antony. While her survival often depended on accurate assessments, this constant mind reading and strategic maneuvering, born out of a need for control and security, could also lead to paranoia and misjudgments, ultimately contributing to her downfall. In a modern dating context, this translates to agonizing over someone's subtle facial expressions on a date or misinterpreting a brief text message as a sign of impending doom. The replayer or the ruminator. You constantly replay past conversations or interactions, dissecting every word, every pause, every gesture. Did I say the wrong thing? Should I have done X instead of Y? You dwell on perceived mistakes, convinced that if you just analyze them enough, you can somehow change the past or prevent a similar failure in the future. Example, think of Hamlet. His famous soliloquies are the epitome of rumination. He constantly replayed his father's death, his mother's hasty marriage, his own perceived inaction, getting caught in an endless loop of analysis that prevented him from making clear, decisive choices. This constant replaying of the past paralyzed him, leading to tragic consequences, not just for himself, but for those around him. The perfectionist pleaser, you overthink every interaction to ensure you are presenting the perfect version of yourself, always seeking approval. You worry about saying the right thing, looking the right way, or being enough to secure affection. This often comes from a deep-seated fear of rejection and a belief that your worth is tied to external validation. Example, consider the life of Marilyn Monroe. Publicly, she projected an image of effortless glamour and charm, but privately, she was plagued by deep insecurities and a constant need for validation. Every public appearance, every interview, every interaction with powerful men could be seen as an opportunity to be perfect and loved, leading to immense internal pressure and self-doubt. While her charisma was undeniable, her life was also a testament to the heavy burden of constantly seeking external approval. The fixer, see, or the problem solver. You see every bump in a relationship as a problem to be solved through sheer mental effort. You create elaborate strategies to fix the other person, fix the dynamic, or fix yourself to make the relationship work, even when it's fundamentally misaligned or unhealthy. You believe that if you just think hard enough, you can engineer a solution. Example, picture Dr. Frankenstein. His brilliant, albeit misguided, overthinking led him to believe he could fix death, could create life, could engineer the perfect being. His relentless focus on solving this ultimate problem without considering the ethical or emotional consequences resulted in tragedy. In relationships, this translates to overthinking how to change someone's core personality or solve their commitment issues through your own sheer effort. The deeper message, what overthinking is trying to tell you, visual, you lean back slightly, a more reflective posture, eyes thoughtful. Here's a crucial insight: your overthinking isn't just a random act of mental torment. It's often your deeper self, your intuition, trying to tell you something important. It's a smoke signal from your soul. If you're constantly mind reading or predicting negative outcomes, it might be your intuition screaming that you don't feel safe or secure in this connection, or that your trust has been broken before. If you're endlessly replaying past mistakes, it might be a sign that you need to forgive yourself, learn the lesson, and finally let go, rather than punishing yourself with endless self-recrimination. If you're always trying to be the perfectionist pleaser, your inner voice might be urging you to embrace your authentic self, flaws and all, and seek connections where you are loved for who you truly are, not for who you pretend to be. If you're stuck in fixer mode, your intuition is likely begging you to acknowledge that some things cannot be fixed by you, and that your energy is better spent on healing yourself and finding alignment. The overthinking is a symptom, not the root cause. It's the engine running on empty, desperately trying to get somewhere, but going nowhere. And the fuel for this engine is often your unaddressed fears, your unresolved wounds, and your profound desire for love and acceptance. Your assignment for self-awareness, journaling your overthinking patterns. Visual, you might gesture towards a notepad or journal, gently encouraging. This isn't about shaming yourself for these patterns. It's about bringing them into the light so you can finally begin to dismantle them. To do that, we need to get specific. Your assignment before our next conversation is this: find a quiet moment, grab a journal or a piece of paper, and for just 10-15 minutes, allow yourself to jot down answers to these questions. Don't edit yourself. Don't judge. Just observe and write. Identify your triggers. What specific situations, text, phone calls, or even silences trigger your overthinking in relationships? Be as detailed as possible. Zigij. When they don't text back within an hour, or when they make vague plans after a slight disagreement. Uncover the underlying fear beneath the overthinking. What is the deepest fear? Is it rejection? Abandonment? Not being good enough? Being alone forever? Losing control? Write it down, even if it feels uncomfortable. This is crucial. Notice the physical sensations. Where do you feel the overthinking in your body? Is it a knot in your stomach? Tension in your shoulders? A racing heart? A headache? Becoming aware of the physical manifestation helps you know when you're caught in the loop. This isn't a test. It's an act of radical self-compassion. It's giving voice to the silent tormentor so you can begin to understand it and eventually disarm it. The pen on paper has a unique power to bring clarity to the chaos of the mind. Remember, acknowledging these patterns is the first step towards reclaiming your power. You're not just a victim of your thoughts. You have the capacity to observe them, understand them, and eventually redirect them. This is how we begin to heal. This is how we begin to trust ourselves again. You are not broken for having these patterns. You are simply ready to evolve beyond them. And I am here to guide you every step of the way.